Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We're talking about ethics in the Holy Quran. Today we're going to talk about the type of relationship, the ideal relationship that we should have with God. As you see, in this world we have different types of relationship with different types of people. The way that we treat our friends, our peers are different. It's a different type of relationship than the way that we have, for example, we behave in front of our parents, or the way that we behave in class, in a classroom setting with our teachers, with our professors, is more respectful because we're trying to learn from them. So what is the ideal relationship that we should have with God? What type of relationship should we have with God? To answer this, we can say there are two components that construct an ideal relationship with God. One is a relationship that is full of fear of God, that God is the creator of the universe, God is the sustainer, and that we need Him every second, every millisecond for our own existence. Therefore, whatever He commands should be respected, should be followed. Therefore, we're fearful when it comes to God. Also, at the same time, we are very hopeful in God. We are hopeful in His mercy. We are not in a way that we ever lose hope with God, that no matter what sins we do or have done, that we always know that we can turn back towards God. We know that He is Arhamar Rahimin, that He is the most merciful of the merciful. Therefore, this type of relationship that we're trying to develop with God is a maximization of fear and a maximization of hope of God. And this will construct an ideal relationship. Let's look at some of the verses in the Holy Quran. We see one side of verses of the Holy Quran that talk about fearing God, and this causes us spiritual development. This causes us to attain our goal. We look at the Holy Quran and we see verses that talk about eternal happiness coming from fearing God. جزاؤهم عند ربهم جنات عدن تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا. Their reward with Allah will be gardens of perpetual residence beneath which rivers flow, wherein they will abide forever. رضي الله عنهم, Allah being pleased with them, ورضوا عنه, and they will be pleased with God. ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ خَشِيَ رَبَّهُ. That is for whoever has feared their Lord. Therefore, perpetual happiness, eternal happiness is from fearing God. Or we see other verses in the Holy Quran speaking about fearing God is one of the conditions to accept the call of the prophets and their books. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا مُوسَى وَهَارُونَ الْفُرْقَانَ وَضِيَاءً وَذِكْرًا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. And we had already given Moses and Aaron the criterion, the Furqan, and a light and a reminder for the righteous that have this attribute, الَّذِينَ يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَيْبِ. The righteous who fear their Lord unseen, وَهُمْ مِنَ السَّاعَةِ مُشْفِقُونَ. While they are of the hour apprehensive. So we see that fear of God causes us to enter heaven, causes us eternal happiness, causes us to answer the call of the prophets, to listen to them, to have faith in them. So this is a faculty that we should develop, fearing God for everyone from any type of religion they have, that we should fear God. The second aspect that we look at is hope we talked about. So fear develops us, also hope develops us. Let's look at a few verses of the Quran that talk about hope. So let's read some of these verses that talk about hope. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرِ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. There has certainly been for you in the Messenger of Allah an excellent pattern For anyone whose hope is in Allah and the last day, and who remembers Allah often. So those that have taken the Prophet as an uswa, as an example, are those that have hope in God. Let's look at other verses. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ هَاجَرُوا وَجَاهَدُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أُولَٰئِكَ يَرْجُونَ رَحْمَةَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Indeed, those who have believed and those who have immigrated and fought in the cause of Allah, those expect the mercy of Allah, and Allah is forgiving and merciful. Therefore, fearing God and having hope in Him causes us spiritual development. That if we want eternal paradise, if we want to listen to the call of the prophets, there is this quality that we need to develop, and that is fearing God, and at the same time another quality that we need to develop, and that is having true hope and sheer hope in God. But how can this be done? How can it be that these two attributes don't contradict each other? Because how can you have true faith in God at the same time have true hope in God? To add true hope, as we read, Al-Imam Ali alayhi salam narrated to have said, "La takhafu dhulma rabbikum." Don't fear oppression from your Lord. وَلَكِنْ خَافُوا ظُلْمَ أَنفُسِكُمْ. Rather fear oppression from your own selves. So when we really dive into the meaning of fear, we are fearing of the dhulm and the oppression that we have done to ourselves. Like for example, we say, ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي in Du'a Kumayl. I have oppressed myself, I have done dhulm to myself. This is because Allah does not want us to harm ourselves, and that the forbidden is actually for us to stay away from it, that we will be hurt from it. Or the obligations is that we can attain maslahat, is that we can attain a good for ourselves. And that He is so sensitive and He wants to ensure us so much that He says, do not perform these actions. You will be punished. Why? So that we can refrain from and protect ourselves from harm, and we can gain good, inshallah. So when you actually think of it, fear of God is fearing the result or the recompense of our own actions. Therefore, we do not fear God, we can say. We fear the recompense of our own actions. And this is how we live life in this world. If somebody drives in a crazy way, if somebody is very reckless, and it's raining, for example, they're speeding, they're not separating themselves enough from the car in front of them, what is the result? They could be doomed, they could be annihilated, they could cause death and destruction to others. So therefore, this world is the world of causation. If you're irresponsible, then bad things can happen. In the same way, if you're irresponsible when it comes to these prohibitions or the obligations, we can cause a disaster to ourselves. Therefore, we are afraid of this recompense to ourselves. And we can look at the difference between fearing God and fearing others, is that actually fear of God causes us hope. Fear of God causes us to come close to God. Look at some of the narrations from Imam Ali alayhi salam that talks about إِذَا خِفْتَ الْخَالِقِ فَرَرْتَ إِلَيْهِ. When you fear the Creator, you escape to Him. إِذَا خِفْتَ الْمَخْلُوقِ فَرَرْتَ مِنْهِ. And when you fear a creature, you will escape from it. When we're afraid of something in this world, we run away from it. But the fear of God is actually causing us to run towards Him, to have hope towards Him, to say that, oh Allah, I am afraid of what I have done to myself. All these sins that I have done, my future, I don't know what's going to happen of me. Nobody knows, nobody's guaranteed heaven, nobody knows that they will be forgiven, nobody knows that they will be protected in the hereafter. Therefore, you run towards God, you cry to Allah, you go towards Him and you say, forgive me, protect me, I have hope in you. Therefore, in reality, Imam Ali alayhi salam, the tafsir of al-khawf and raja, which are two lights, which should be maximized and they should be instilled in our day-to-day lives. Fear of God actually causes us to have hope in Him, because we are not running away from God. We're running towards Him. We fear Him. We have awe of Him. We're afraid of our own actions in reality. And we go towards God humbly and in a hopeful way, so that Allah can forgive and repair, inshallah, those damages that we have done to our soul, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad وآل محمد وعجل